For decades, countless fans of Gunsmoke have carried a single, unshakable question in their hearts. Why did Marshal Matt Dillon, the stoic, noble lawman played by James Arness, never kiss Miss Kitty, the fiery saloon owner brought to life by Amanda Blake? It seemed inevitable. Week after week, they shared silent glances that burned brighter than any sunset over Dodge City. Every wordless exchange between them carried a longing that viewers could feel through the screen. And yet, the kiss, that one moment that could have sealed their love, never came. Was it written that way? Was it because of moral standards on television? Or was there something deeper? Something hidden behind the curtains of fame, silence, and the private lives of two extraordinary actors? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on one of television's most enduring mysteries, revealing the hidden truths, emotional scars, and unspoken choices that shaped one of the greatest love stories never told. But before we begin, if you love forgotten Hollywood stories, true emotions behind the camera, and the untold side of the stars we grew up admiring, take a moment to subscribe. Your support helps keep stories like this alive. And stay with us until the end, because the final revelation about James Arness and Miss Kitty will change the way you remember them forever. When Gunsmoke first aired in 1955, it wasn't just another Western. It was a mirror of American ideals: law, loyalty, and restraint. In a world of outlaws and chaos, Matt Dillon stood for something larger than himself: integrity. And beside him, Miss Kitty Russell symbolized independence, compassion, and quiet strength. Audiences could feel it: the affection buried beneath professionalism, the desire wrapped in unspoken words. People tuned in every week, waiting for that spark to ignite, for that long-awaited kiss to finally break the tension. But it never came. And the reason, as it turns out, wasn't simple. Behind James Arness's calm eyes was a man shaped by war, by pain, by silence, by memories that never truly left him. He wasn't just an actor playing a strong man. He was that man. He had lived the things most people only pretended to act. Before Hollywood, before fame, Arness was a soldier in World War II. He was sent to the beaches of Anzio, Italy, where a storm of bullets and fire changed him forever. He was badly wounded, his right leg shattered. The pain followed him all his life. But it wasn't just physical. He carried invisible wounds too, the kind that left him distant, cautious, and guarded with his emotions. When he became Matt Dillon, that discipline, that need to hide vulnerability, became the foundation of the character. Arness often said in rare interviews, Dillon couldn't afford to be weak, not in that world. Out there, a moment of softness could mean death. But behind those words was more truth than he ever admitted. The line between James Arness and Matt Dillon was thin, sometimes invisible. Amanda Blake, on the other hand, was his opposite in many ways. She was warm, expressive, full of life. She laughed easily and connected with people quickly. To her, acting wasn't just about control, it was about emotion. She believed that vulnerability made a character real, human, relatable. On set, the chemistry between them was undeniable. Crew members would often whisper, "You can feel it." The way she'd look at him, the way he'd hesitate before speaking. There was something raw there, something real. And yet, off-screen, Arness maintained a quiet distance. He wasn't cold, but he was careful. To many, it felt like he was afraid of letting people too close. There were times when writers tried to push for a kiss, believing that fans would love it. But every time, Arness objected. Sometimes politely, sometimes firmly. One producer later recalled, "Jim told us, if Dillon kisses her, it's over. It breaks what they have." What few knew, however, was that Arness's decision wasn't just about storytelling. It was about self-preservation. The scars from war had left him deeply private. He never wanted pity. He wanted strength, control, and dignity, for both himself and the character. A kiss, to him, would expose something fragile. It would open a part of himself he had worked so hard to keep sealed. Amanda Blake, meanwhile, understood, perhaps better than anyone. Though she sometimes wished their characters could have shared that moment of affection, she respected Arness completely. There was a part of her that admired his quiet discipline, even if it frustrated her as an actress. Still, their on-screen bond became something unique, A love defined not by touch, but by tension. Every pause between them carried more emotion than 1,000 words. As years went by, Gunsmoke became the longest-running Western in history. Millions watched, captivated not just by the gunfights or the dusty landscapes, but by the emotional gravity between Dylan and Kitty, a love that burned slow, silent, and eternal. The truth is, what they created was far more powerful than a kiss. It was a connection that existed in every shared look, every quiet goodbye, every unsaid word. But behind the scenes, there were moments of real tension and real care. During late filming hours, Arness would quietly check if Amanda was comfortable. She'd tease him about his stoicism, calling him stone face. He'd smile barely and say, "Somebody has to keep the peace." That subtle dynamic, humor, respect, unspoken affection, was exactly what made their relationship timeless. And yet, there were whispers. Hollywood insiders spoke of disagreements, and sometimes of a real bond between them that blurred the line between fiction and truth. Some claimed they shared quiet moments away from the cameras, talks about life, loss, and loneliness. Whether or not that's true, what's undeniable is this: their chemistry came from a place of authenticity. Arness and Blake didn't just act love, they lived the absence of it, and in that absence, audiences found something deeper. Because sometimes, the most powerful love stories are the ones that remain unspoken. What truly kept Gunsmoke alive for 20 years wasn't just its gunslingers, dusty saloons, or tales of justice. It was silence. Not the kind of silence that feels empty, but the kind that speaks louder than any dialogue. The silence between James Arness and Amanda Blake, between Matt Dillon and Miss Kitty, became the heartbeat of the show. Every time they appeared on screen together, the air changed. You could almost feel the gravity pulling them toward one another. Yet they always stopped just short. That almost became everything. It was in the way Dylan would glance at Kitty when she wasn't looking, or the way her voice would soften whenever she said his name. The restraint was electric. Arness once said in a rare interview, "Sometimes what you don't show is what people remember most." He understood the power of suggestion. He knew that mystery lasts longer than revelation. Amanda Blake embodied that same understanding in her own way. She once told a friend, "We never kissed, but people felt it anyway." That's the real kind of love, the one you don't have to explain. On set, the chemistry was so natural that directors often stepped back and let the scene breathe. No one dared to interrupt that quiet rhythm between them. It was like watching two souls orbit each other, close enough to touch, yet always keeping the space that made the longing eternal. Even when the cameras stopped rolling, that magnetic tension lingered. They shared private jokes, quiet smiles, and the kind of mutual trust that only grows when two people truly respect one another. Arness would sometimes call her Red, a nod to her fiery hair, and she'd respond with a teasing grin, "Careful, Marshall, you're smiling too much." He'd answer with his trademark half-smirk and walk away, leaving her laughing. It was a dance, one made not of movement, but of pauses. And that's what audiences fell in love with. As years turned into decades, Gunsmoke became more than a TV show. It became a reflection of something people long for but rarely find, a love that doesn't need to be said out loud. While fans speculated about romance, something deeper was happening beneath the surface. Arness's real-life battles with trauma made him cautious about showing affection on camera. He had built an armor, not just as an actor but as a man. To him, control was safety. But that same restraint created an authenticity no script could replicate. Amanda Blake once described him as the most gentle man who never let you see how much he cared. That paradox, strength wrapped around sensitivity, was what made the audience believe in Matt Dillon. There were times, though, when that emotional distance weighed on her. Blake was expressive, warm-hearted, and she sometimes wished their characters could finally have that release, that one moment of tenderness. But she also understood that what made their connection powerful was the longing itself. The absence was the story. Producers tried again and again to change that. They pushed for an episode where Dylan and Kitty would finally share a kiss, maybe even marry. But Arness, steadfast as ever, refused. He believed it would destroy the mystique that had carried them for years. And he was right, because in that restraint lay the truth of their bond. Their relationship mirrored real life in many ways. Both had seen loss, both carried invisible scars, and both knew that love doesn't always arrive in the form people expect. Sometimes, love is about loyalty, about showing up, staying, protecting, even when the world doesn't see it. Miss Kitty didn't need Matt Dillon to kiss her. She needed him to be there, and he always was. When Gunsmoke finally ended in 1975, it wasn't just the end of a show, it was the closing of an era. Viewers who had grown up with Dillon and Kitty felt as if they had lost something personal. People wrote letters, pleading for a reunion, a final kiss, a resolution. But the beauty of their story was that it never needed one. Their connection became legend, a kind of emotional ghost that lingered long after the screen went dark. Writers, actors, and filmmakers studied their chemistry for decades afterward. Many called it the art of restraint. Modern Hollywood often chases spectacle. Louder, faster, more explicit. But what Gunsmoke proved was timeless. That the most unforgettable stories are built on suggestion, mystery, and respect. Arness's philosophy, "What's left unsaid lasts longer," became his signature. And Amanda Blake carried that same grace throughout her life. After the show, she dedicated herself to causes she loved, including animal welfare. When asked about Arness in an interview, she smiled and said, "Jim taught me that silence can be love too." They never needed to say it, never needed to act it out. The truth was written in every shared glance, in every episode that ended with quiet understanding. Even years later, when Gunsmoke reruns aired on television, younger generations who had never lived through the show's prime would still feel it, that deep, unspoken tenderness. It didn't matter if you were from the 1950s or the 2020s. The chemistry between Dillon and Kitty transcended time. Gunsmoke did more than entertain. It taught subtlety in an era obsessed with action. Writers learned that not every story needs a grand gesture to be powerful. Actors studied Arness's calm authority and Blake's quiet warmth, trying to capture the kind of authenticity they achieved effortlessly. Psychologists even referenced Gunsmoke in studies about emotional projection, how audiences fill in the gaps when something is left unsaid. The human mind, after all, is drawn to mystery. And that's what kept people coming back. The absence of a kiss became a symbol of discipline, respect, and the bittersweet beauty of what might have been. Fans began calling it the greatest love story that never happened. Behind the stoic Marshall Dillon and the tender Miss Kitty were two human beings who understood something most people never grasp: that sometimes silence can hold more love than words ever could. When Gunsmoke ended, James Arness retreated from Hollywood's spotlight. He preferred simplicity, spending time with family, outdoors, away from fame's noise. He was never one to seek attention. In his rare interviews, he often downplayed his fame, saying, "I just did my job, and the people made it something more." Amanda Blake remained active in film and television, though she always carried a fondness for her years in Dodge City. She once said, "Those were the best years, not because of fame, but because of what we built together." Even though life took them in different directions, their friendship remained. They wrote letters, called occasionally, and always spoke with mutual admiration. When Amanda passed away in 1989, Arness was deeply affected but stayed silent, true to his nature. Those who knew him said he mourned her quietly, in the way only he could. And so we arrive at the end of the story few know. The real reason James Arness never kissed Miss Kitty, a love restrained, silent, but eternally impactful on television. This decision, as personal as it was artistic, shows that love doesn't always need to be demonstrated to be felt, and that what is left unsaid can have more power than any gesture. If this story surprised you, subscribe to the channel now and leave a like. It helps YouTube understand that you enjoy this content and allows more incredible stories like this to reach you. We want to hear your opinion. Comment below what surprised you most, which detail shocked or delighted you, because your input helps us continue delivering quality content. And if you want to dive even deeper, don't go away. Click on the video appearing on your screen. It's even more fascinating and filled with secrets and revelations you won't believe. Don't miss it!